Hey guys, tonight we are going to close our eyes and let the mind's currents carry us far away, not into the emptiness of space, but backward through the great river of time. We'll drift along the soft, golden sands of history, arriving at a place where the sun was a living god and a river was the very heartbeat of a civilization. We'll find ourselves standing on the edge of the Nile with the scent of water and mud in the air and the immense, silent desert stretching out behind us. We're going to explore what it might feel like to live in ancient Egypt. And I must give you a fair warning. This is less of a pleasant vacation and more of an exploration of what it means to truly survive. You probably wouldn't. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where in the world you're settling in from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to think of all of us together, across different moments and places, sharing this quiet journey. And now, let's begin. Imagine you are a grain of sand long ago, separated from its home in a distant mountain range. For millennia you tumbled and were worn down, carried by wind and water until you came to rest on the banks of a river. The river itself, the Nile, is an ancient living thing. It's not just a body of water. It's a geological force, a slow-motion sculptor of the land. Its very existence is a testament to the immense patient work of our planet. When we talk about geological time, we're not talking about centuries or even millennia. We're talking about epochs about a scale so vast, it's difficult for the human mind to grasp. 1,000,000 years is a blink. 100 million years is barely a pause. The Nile has been flowing for at least 30 million years. Think of that. For 30 million years, it has carried silt and nutrients from the heart of Africa, depositing them along its banks, creating the fertile ribbon of green that made this entire civilization possible. The sand you're now a part of is a witness to a time that predates humanity's very existence. This is a powerful concept to consider as you feel the dust under your bare feet. It's a physical reminder that we are all, in a sense, made of the earth and the things that came before us. This simple geological truth is a form of deep time meditation. It connects us to a scale far beyond our daily lives, and it grounds us in the grand unfolding story of the planet. We often think of history as a series of events, but history is also a geological process, a slow layering of time, much like the sedimentary rock that forms in a riverbed. Your presence here in this ancient land is a sudden fleeting blip in this long geological narrative. But for the moment, you are here. The world around you is shaped by two powerful and opposing forces, the life-giving river and the death-dealing desert. This duality isn't just a physical reality. It's a core organizing principle for their entire worldview. The Egyptians saw the world as a constant struggle between Ma'at, the principle of cosmic order and balance, and Isvet, the force of chaos and disorder. The Nile and the desert were perfect, tangible symbols of this eternal cosmic battle. The Nile's annual flood, the Akhet, was the ultimate expression of Ma'at. It brought life, fertility, and predictability. The desert, on the other hand, was the domain of Isfet. It was unpredictable, unforgiving, and the place where all things went to die. This brings us to an interesting and fundamental concept in chemistry: oxidation. We often think of oxidation as rust forming on metal, but it's a much broader and more profound process. It's the loss of electrons in a chemical reaction. When something burns, it's oxidizing. When a fruit turns brown, it's oxidizing. When our own cells age, a process accelerated by free radicals, it's a form of oxidation. In a very poetic sense, the desert is a place of accelerated oxidation. The harsh sun, the dry air, the lack of water, all of these contribute to a world that is breaking down, losing its life force, its electrons at a rapid pace. The Nile, however, with its water and its lush green growth, is a place of reduction, the opposite process. It's a place where things gain electrons and build up where life can flourish and resist the slow, inevitable march toward decay. This scientific truth was in a way intuitively understood by the ancient Egyptians who built their entire civilization on the principle of resisting the decay of the desert. The very air you breathe here feels different. It's thick with the scent of the river's silt, with the smell of sun-baked mud and the subtle sweet fragrance of papyrus. The light itself is a character in this story. The sun Ra is a constant, brilliant presence. It feels less like a distant star and more like a living deity watching over you. The heat is a tangible thing, a heavy blanket that settles over the land. And yet, this isn't just a place of sun and sand. It's a place of subtle, fascinating biological processes. Have you ever wondered what happens in the air after the sun sets? A little-known scientific fact is that the phenomenon of a cool night after a hot day is a direct result of the lack of a thermal blanket. Water vapor and clouds trap heat, preventing it from radiating away from the surface of the earth. In a dry desert climate, where there is very little water vapor in the air, the heat of the day simply radiates out into space unimpeded after the sun goes down. It's a process called radiative cooling. So while the days here can be mercilessly hot, the nights can be surprisingly cool, even cold. This nightly temperature swing would have been a central rhythm of your life, a physical expression of the Ma'at and Isfet duality. The day is for labor, for action, for life, under the watchful eye of Ra. The night is for rest, for cooling, for a retreat into the stillness of the dark. This rhythm, this constant push and pull between extremes, would define your existence. Your work, your meals, your sleep, all would be governed by the movement of the sun and the cyclical rise and fall of the river. There were no electric lights to extend the day, no artificial temperature controls to soften the extremes. Your life would be tethered to these natural forces in a way that modern life simply isn't. And this raises an interesting question about consciousness itself. When our lives are so profoundly and directly tied to the rhythms of the natural world, does our perception of time change? Does the experience of being alive feel more visceral, more immediate, when every moment is so clearly dictated by the sun's position and the river's flow? We, in our modern world, have created a synthetic, clock-based reality that is often disconnected from the natural world. Our days are measured in hours, minutes, and seconds, not in sunrises and sunsets. Perhaps in this ancient place, the very nature of your awareness would be different, more attuned to the earth beneath your feet and the sky above your head. The truth is, we don't really know for sure how much this deep connection to nature would change our inner world. But it's a quiet mystery that feels worth contemplating as the sun begins its slow descent toward the horizon. For now, just feel the ancient earth beneath you. Feel the warmth radiating from the ground, the gentle breeze carrying the memory of the desert, and the subtle, constant presence of the river. You are at the very beginning of a long journey, and the first lesson is simply to be still and to listen. The land itself is speaking, whispering of deep time and ancient forces if you only quiet your mind enough to hear it. The shadows are lengthening now, stretching out across the mud brick houses, turning the landscape into a canvas of amber and gold. The air is starting to lose its shimmering heat, replaced by a soft, almost velvety coolness. Think of the scale of this place. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built 1,000 years after the earliest Egyptian cities, is a testament to the sheer human will to impose order on a chaotic world. It's a structure built with a precision that still baffles modern engineers. And yet, it's just a tiny momentary ripple in the vast geological timeline we spoke of earlier. The stone of the pyramid, like the sand beneath your feet, is made of minerals that were formed over millions of years, subjected to immense pressure and heat, only to be shaped by human hands for a brief fleeting moment in history. The pyramid is a monument to both the fleeting nature of human endeavor and its capacity for incredible focused purpose. As the first star appears, a tiny point of light in the deepening sky, a feeling of vastness settles over you. It's a feeling that comes from understanding your place in the universe, not just in terms of space, but also in terms of time. The star you see might be 1,000 light years away, its light traveling for a millennium to reach your eyes. The knowledge we have of the cosmos today is immense, yet it's built upon the first tentative observations made by people just like those around you. People who saw the stars as living beings, as gods, charting a course across the heavens. They had no telescopes, no advanced mathematics, yet they saw patterns. They told stories, and they made a profound connection between the rhythms of the sky and the rhythms of their lives. This fundamental human need to find meaning in the cosmos is something that has not changed. We still look up at the stars and wonder. We still feel a sense of awe and a quiet, humbling smallness. This is a shared human experience that transcends time and culture. The Egyptians saw the constellation Orion as the god Osiris, the lord of the afterlife, and the North Star as a symbol of permanence and eternity. This practice of imbuing the night sky with stories and meaning is a beautiful example of how we as a species use narrative to make sense of the vast, indifferent universe. So as the last light of day fades and the darkness of the desert night begins to take over, take a deep breath. Let the air fill your lungs, air that has moved across this land for countless generations. Feel the stillness, the quiet. You are in a place of deep history, a place where the forces of nature are not just phenomena to be observed, but are characters in the story of life itself. The journey is just beginning, but for now the world is quiet. The sands are settling. The river flows on. The world wakes not with the blare of a horn or the ringing of an alarm, but with the subtle, slow brightening of the eastern sky. This is a light that doesn't simply turn on. It swells a tide of gold that washes over the desert and gradually reveals the shapes of the world. As a villager, a common farmer or artisan, your existence is utterly governed by this daily cycle. There is no concept of a workday that begins and ends at a specific hour. There is only the sun. Your body's internal clock, your circadian rhythm, is a finely tuned instrument, calibrated to the rhythm of the sun's journey across the sky. The science of circadian rhythms is a fascinating one. We know now that every living organism, from cyanobacteria to humans, has an internal biological clock that regulates processes like sleep hormone release and body temperature. This clock is primarily synchronized by light and darkness. Our modern world, with its artificial lighting, has thrown this delicate system into chaos. We can work all night, scroll through our phones in a dark room, and sleep with blackout curtains drawn tight. But here in ancient Egypt, your circadian rhythm would be in perfect natural sync with the world around you. You would wake with the sun, feel a natural surge of energy as it climbed, and feel the gentle pull toward rest as it began to set. Your body would be a living pendulum swinging in harmony with the cosmos. As the light touches your face, you can feel the warmth. It's a soft, comforting warmth, the kind that precedes the intense heat of the day. This first light, this breath of gold, feels sacred. It's the return of Ra, the sun god, who is believed to have made his nightly journey through the underworld, battling the serpent of chaos Apep, to be reborn each morning. Your own waking is a mirror of this cosmic drama. You are not just waking up to another day of work. You are participating in the renewal of creation, a tiny player in the great unfolding story of Mayet's triumph over Isfet. Your first task of the day as a farmer is to attend to the fields. The soil is a dark, rich loam, a gift from the river's last flood. It's cool and damp under your feet. The work is physical and repetitive, tending to barley, emmer, wheat, or flax. There's a quiet, rhythmic beauty to it. The pulling of weeds, the scooping of water from a canal using a shadoof, the bending and rising with the rhythm of your breath. This is work that engages not just your hands, but your whole body and mind. There is a deep satisfaction in this kind of labor, a direct connection between your effort and the food that will nourish your family. This physical labor is also a form of mindfulness, though they wouldn't have called it that. When your mind is focused on the simple, repetitive task of working the earth, it can enter a state of flow, a kind of waking meditation. The thoughts that race through your mind in the modern world, The worries about the future, the regrets about the past would be less dominant here. Your consciousness is anchored in the physical reality of the moment, the feel of the soil, the warmth of the sun, the sound of the water, the ache in your muscles. This brings us to a little-known fact about the human brain. Even simple repetitive tasks can stimulate the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for focus and problem-solving, creating a feeling of calm and purpose. The simple physical existence of ancient Egypt might have been difficult, but it would have also been deeply grounding. As the sun climbs higher, the air grows heavy with heat. The physical exertion becomes more challenging, but the body adapts. Your skin weathered and tanned is a testament to a life lived outdoors. The sun is a constant presence, a reminder that energy at its core is a gift from a distant star. This brings us to a fundamental scientific principle, the first law of thermodynamics, the law of conservation of energy. It states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. The energy from the sun is captured by the plants in your field through photosynthesis, which is then transformed into the chemical energy stored in the grains you will eat. You are quite literally made of starlight and river mud, a physical manifestation of this cosmic energy transformation. Lunch is a simple affair. Bread, perhaps some onions, or a piece of fish from the river. It's a quiet moment of rest in the shade of a small hut or a lone acacia tree. Here, with the heat at its peak, the world seems to go still. The air shimmers over the fields, and the only sounds are the hum of insects and the distant melodic call of a bird. This stillness is another of those rhythms that would have defined your life. It's the moment when you retreat from the world's intensity, a time for quiet reflection or simple companionable silence. The afternoon brings more work, but with a different light. The sun is now a harsh vertical presence, and the shadows are short and sharp. It's a time for tasks that can be done with less movement, like repairing tools or weaving baskets. As the day begins to wane and the sun starts its slow, graceful descent, a different kind of energy returns. The air begins to cool, and a soft, golden light returns to the landscape. It's a time for communal gathering. Neighbors might sit together sharing a simple meal and talking about the day's work. The conversation is simple, rooted in the shared experiences of the community. In this communal existence, you are not an individual in the modern sense. Your identity is deeply intertwined with your family, your village, and the gods. The concept of an individual self separate and distinct from the community is a very modern idea. Here, your worth is measured by your contribution to the collective, by your role in maintaining Ma'at, the cosmic order. This collective consciousness is fascinating to consider. We know from modern psychology that humans are hardwired for social connection, that our brains release oxytocin when we feel a sense of belonging. The ancient Egyptian village, with its tightly knit social fabric, would have provided this sense of belonging in a way that is increasingly rare today. This raises a quiet philosophical question. Does a strong sense of community and shared purpose make individual happiness less important? The truth is, we don't really know. But it's a question worth pondering as you feel the quiet comfort of being part of something larger than yourself. As night falls and the first stars emerge in the now cooling sky, your work is done. The day with its clear, simple rhythms is over. The fires are lit, casting a warm, flickering light on the faces of your family. The world outside the village is a dark and mysterious place, the domain of the gods and spirits of the underworld. But inside, there is warmth, light, and the quiet comfort of a life lived in harmony with the natural world. And as you lay your head down to sleep, the last thoughts in your mind are not of abstract problems or distant worries, but of the simple physical reality of your day, the feel of the earth, the warmth of the sun, the presence of your loved ones. Your body, tired from the day's labor, welcomes the coming rest. Your circadian rhythm, in perfect sync with the cosmos, is ready for its nightly journey. And as the dark stillness envelops you, you are not afraid. You are simply a part of the great quiet rhythm of life and death, of light and darkness, that defines this ancient land. As the sun climbs higher and the day's work continues, your world expands beyond the simple physical reality of the fields. It expands into the realm of thought, of signs, and of the cosmic order. One of the most remarkable things about this civilization is the way they encoded their beliefs and observations into their very language. The intricate system of hieroglyphs is far more than just a writing system. It's a living tapestry of their worldview, a direct window into their minds. A scribe would tell you that the hieroglyphs are a gift from the god Thoth, the lord of wisdom and writing. But from a modern perspective, they are a profound and complex system of communication, combining pictures, sounds, and determinatives into a fluid, expressive script. They aren't just symbols for letters like our alphabet. Some hieroglyphs represent a single sound, others represent a whole word, and still others are silent symbols that tell you how to interpret the word that came before it. This blending of symbolic and phonetic representation is a testament to the sophistication of their thought. It shows a mind that could think in multiple layers at once, a mind that saw the world not as a collection of separate things, but as a web of interconnected symbols and sounds. This brings us to a core concept in modern linguistics, the relationship between language and thought. We often take for granted that our thoughts are simply expressed through words, but some theorists, like the proponents of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, suggest that the very structure of our language can shape the way we think. While this idea is still debated, it's a fascinating lens through which to view the ancient Egyptians. Did their language, with its blending of image and sound, lead them to think in more metaphorical, more layered ways? Did it encourage them to see the world as a place where the concrete and the abstract were always intertwined? The truth is, we don't really know, but it's a quiet mystery that underscores the incredible power of language to not just describe reality, but to shape it. And this understanding of symbols and patterns extended far beyond their writing. It extended to the very stars above them. The Egyptians were masterful observers of the night sky, not just for navigational purposes, but because they believed the cosmos was a direct reflection of the order and chaos on Earth. This is the field of archaeoastronomy, a discipline that studies how ancient cultures understood and used celestial phenomena. The Egyptians saw the stars as a celestial map charting the journeys of their gods. They noted the rising of the star Sirius, which they called Sopdet, because its appearance in the eastern sky just before dawn coincided with the annual flooding of the Nile. This was no mere coincidence. It was a sign from the gods, a confirmation that Mayat was still in control. The star was a celestial messenger, a harbinger of the life-giving flood. This reveals a deeper truth about their understanding of the world. They didn't see the universe as a series of random chaotic events. They saw it as a grand interconnected system of signs and symbols. The movements of the sun, moon, and stars were not just physical events. They were divine communications, a cosmic language they were determined to learn. This is a profound shift from a purely empirical scientific mindset. The Egyptians observed the world with an intense, data-driven focus, but they interpreted that data through a spiritual and philosophical lens. The sky was a storybook, and they were learning to read its pages. A little-known fact about ancient Egyptian astronomy is their use of decans, a series of 36 constellations or star groups that divided the year into 36 10-day weeks. These were not just for telling time. They were used for religious purposes, for scheduling rituals, and for creating a system of celestial guardians for each day. Their precision in tracking these star groups was remarkable, considering they had no telescopes, only their keen eyes, and the clear, dry desert air. This demonstrates a deep, patient commitment to observation, a discipline that laid the groundwork for future astronomical discoveries. The Nile, too, was read like a language. Its rise and fall was a predictable text, a sacred rhythm that told them when to plant and when to harvest. The landscape itself was a series of symbols. The desert represented chaos. The fertile land represented order. Even the physical body was a text, to be read, a subject we will explore more deeply later. But for now, just consider the vast interconnected web of meaning they created. For the ancient Egyptian, there was no such thing as a random event. Everything was a sign, a symbol, a part of a larger cosmic pattern. This raises a fascinating and somewhat humbling question for us in the modern world. Have we lost something by moving away from this holistic, symbolic worldview? We have gained an incredible amount of scientific knowledge, of course. We can explain the Nile's flood with meteorology and hydrology. We can explain the rising of Sirius with orbital mechanics. But in doing so, have we lost a sense of the poetic and the sacred in the world? Is there a part of our consciousness that yearns to see a deeper, more profound meaning in the rhythms of the cosmos? This is not to say that a return to ancient beliefs is necessary, but it is to say that the very act of seeing the world as a web of signs is a powerful, almost mystical act of consciousness. Your day then is not just about physical labor. It is also about observing and interpreting the world around you. As you work in the fields, you are also reading the sky. As you walk along the river, you are also reading the land. Your life is a continuous act of understanding, of decoding the messages that the gods and the universe are sending you. And in this act of interpretation, you are participating in the great project of creating and maintaining Ma at the cosmic order. The silent eternal flow of the river and the silent patient march of the stars are two parts of a single majestic story, a story that you, in your quiet simple life, are helping to write. As the sun continues its relentless journey across the sky, and you find a moment of rest in the cool shade, your thoughts might turn inward to the workings of the body and the nature of the self. The ancient Egyptians had a fascinating and deeply complex understanding of anatomy and consciousness, one that was inextricably linked to their beliefs about the soul and the afterlife. They saw the body not just as a physical vessel, but as a dwelling place for various aspects of the self. Their medical practices, for all their limitations, were surprisingly advanced. We know from the Edwin Smith Papyrus, a medical text dating back to around 1600 BC, that they had a sophisticated understanding of surgical procedures and how to treat various injuries. This papyrus, which focuses on trauma, lists 48 different cases from head wounds to spinal injuries, and for each it provides a diagnosis, a prognosis, and a treatment. This empirical observational approach is a remarkable testament to their scientific curiosity. They weren't just guessing. They were looking, recording, and learning from what they saw. This systematic approach, this desire to catalog and understand the physical world, is a cornerstone of modern science, and it's a little-known fact that its roots can be found in a time when most cultures still attributed all illness to supernatural causes. And yet, alongside this empirical knowledge, there existed a rich and poetic understanding of the inner self. They believed the human being was composed of several different interconnected parts. There was the physical body, the ka, which was the part that was mummified and returned to the earth. But there was also the ka, a kind of spiritual double or life force that was born with you and that needed to be sustained in the afterlife. There was the yi, a part of the soul that could travel between the earthly and spiritual realms, often depicted as a human-headed bird. And there was the akar, the transfigured spirit that achieved eternal life. The list goes on, including the heart or ib, which was seen as the seat of emotion, thought, and morality, and the shadow or shut. This layered model of the self raises a profound question that philosophers and neuroscientists still grapple with today. What is consciousness? The Egyptians believed it was a multifaceted thing, not just a single unified entity. They saw it as a combination of life force, personality, memory, and spirit, each with its own specific function. This is not so different from how we now understand the brain as a complex system of interconnected regions, each responsible for different aspects of our experience, from emotion to logic to memory. While they didn't have the scientific tools to prove it, they had an intuitive, poetic understanding of the mind as a composite entity. The truth is, we still don't have a full answer to this question. Physicists still wonder if consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe, and neuroscientists still debate how the electrochemical signals in our brains give rise to the subjective experience of being you. This ancient civilization, in its own way, was asking the very same questions we are asking now. Their emphasis on the heart, the I be, as the seat of thought and feeling, is particularly telling. For the Egyptians, the heart was more important than the brain. In the mummification process, the brain was removed and discarded, seen as little more than a worthless organ. But the heart was carefully preserved, for it would be weighed in the hall of two truths against the feather of Mayat to determine the worthiness of the deceased. This belief is a powerful metaphor. We in the modern world tend to prioritize the brain, seeing it as the supreme organ of logic and reason. But the Egyptians prioritized the heart, recognizing that our moral compass, our emotional life, and our truest self resided not in the cold logic of the mind, but in the warm pulsating organ that was the source of our deepest feelings. This raises an interesting thought experiment. What if we, for a moment, viewed our own lives through this lens? What if we saw our consciousness as a collection of different parts? There's the part of you that's a creature of rhythm, waking with the sun just as the Egyptians were. There's the part that is a storyteller and interpreter of symbols, weaving meaning into the chaos of the world. And there's the part of you that feels, that loves, that yearns for a deeper connection to the world. We are all, in a sense, a collection of different selves, and the ancient Egyptians' model, while scientifically inaccurate by our standards, offers a beautiful poetic way to understand our own complexity. As you sit here quietly in the hot Egyptian afternoon, perhaps you can feel the quiet whisper of these ancient beliefs. You can feel the sun on your skin, a physical reality, and at the same time you can feel the deeper, more mysterious parts of your being, your memories, your feelings, your sense of yourself. This is a place where the physical and the spiritual were not separate, but were woven together into a single, seamless tapestry. And in this way, the ancient world offers us a way to reconnect with our own inner world, to see ourselves not just as biological machines, but as a mysterious and beautiful assembly of life force, spirit, and emotion. The world around you is an endless conversation between order and chaos. You can see it in the perfect straight line of the Nile's bank and the chaotic shifting dunes of the desert beyond. This duality is not just a metaphor, it's a fundamental principle of the universe, one that can be described by the scientific concept of entropy. Entropy is, in its simplest form, a measure of disorder or randomness in a system. The second law of thermodynamics states that the entropy of an isolated system will always increase over time. Things naturally tend to move from a state of order to a state of disorder. The desert wind is a perfect, tangible example of this. It is a force of constant chaotic change. It erodes mountains, shifts entire landscapes, and covers the perfect geometric lines of human creation with a soft blanket of sand. The wind is a tireless agent of entropy, a symbol of the universe's slow, inevitable march toward total disorder. The ancient Egyptians, in their desire to create a world of stability and permanence, were in a constant struggle against this force. They built their temples and tombs out of solid stone, massive monuments designed to defy the passage of time and the ceaseless work of the wind. They sought to impose order on a world that was always naturally tending toward chaos. This brings us to a little-known fact about ancient Egyptian architecture. The pyramids are not just impressive for their size and precision. They are also a testament to their understanding of physical forces. They were built to withstand the immense pressures of both the wind and the sands of time. The simple geometric form of a pyramid, with its wide base and narrow point, is one of the most stable structures in existence. It resists the forces of erosion and the relentless pull of gravity with a quiet, unyielding strength. It is a physical embodiment of their belief in Maya, an attempt to create a permanent, unchanging reality in a world of constant flux. Their society itself was another attempt to impose order on the chaotic flow of human life. The rigid social hierarchy from the pharaoh at the top to the farmers and laborers at the bottom was a meticulously crafted system designed to ensure stability and predictability. Everyone had a place, a role, and a duty. This structure was seen as a divine reflection of the cosmic order. The pharaoh was the earthly representative of the gods, the one who maintained the balance between Ma'at and Isfet. By maintaining their assigned place in society, each individual was contributing to the harmony of the entire cosmos. And yet within this rigid structure, there was always the potential for change, for the kind of chaotic disruption that is a hallmark of human history. Famines, plagues, political upheavals, these were all manifestations of Isfet, of a breakdown in the cosmic order. The Egyptians experienced periods of great chaos known as the intermediate periods, when the central authority of the pharaoh broke down and the country splintered into smaller warring states. These were times of immense suffering and disorder, a tangible reminder that Ma'at was not a given. It was something that had to be constantly and vigilantly maintained. This raises an interesting question. Is human history, like the universe itself, on a one-way street toward increasing entropy? Do all civilizations eventually collapse their order, giving way to disorder, their structures becoming dust? This is a question philosophers and historians have grappled with for centuries. While there are certainly examples of civilizations rising and falling, there are also examples of resilience of human societies adapting and evolving in the face of incredible change. The truth is, we don't know for sure if the story of humanity is one of inevitable decay or one of continuous, albeit painful, transformation. The silent pyramids, standing as monuments to a long-gone civilization, offer a powerful and perhaps humbling piece of evidence. They stand as a testament to both the magnificent ambition of human order and the slow, inevitable work of time's wind. Your life day in and day out is a story written in the soil. You are at your core an agricultural creature. The most basic and profound act of your existence is the planting of a single grain of wheat. This small, seemingly insignificant act is the very foundation of your civilization, and it connects you to a process that is both simple and incredibly complex: photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the alchemy of the natural world, the process by which plants, algae, and some bacteria convert light energy into chemical energy. In the case of the barley and emmer wheat that you grow, they are taking the light from the sun, the water from the Nile, and the carbon dioxide from the air and transforming them into sugar. That sugar is the spark of life. It's the energy that allows the plant to grow, to produce grain, and ultimately to sustain your own life. You are quite literally eating sunlight that has been transformed by a living organism. This is a beautiful and fundamental concept. The universe, in its elegant way, has devised a system to capture the immense constant energy of a distant star and package it into a form that a living creature can consume. Without photosynthesis, there would be no food, no animals, no human civilization. We would be a world of simple self-replicating molecules forever lost in the primordial soup. Your simple act of planting a seed is in a way participating in this grand cosmic process. You are a partner with the sun and the river in the creation of life. The agricultural basis of this civilization is a direct reflection of this. The entire society is organized around the needs of the crop. The calendar, as we will see, is built around the flooding of the Nile. The work cycles, as we've discussed, are determined by the needs of the planting and harvesting seasons. The social structure, too, is a pyramid built on a foundation of fertile soil. At the very bottom are the farmers and laborers who work the land, and on top of that, supported by their labor, are the artisans, the scribes, the priests, and the pharaoh. The food you produce is not just for your family. A portion of it goes to the central granaries to feed the rest of society, from the stonemasons building the tombs to the soldiers protecting the borders. The entire complex organization of this society, from its art to its religion, is built upon the simple biological process of a plant turning sunlight into food. A little-known scientific fact about agriculture in ancient Egypt is that they had a sophisticated understanding of crop rotation. They knew that planting legumes like lentils after a grain crop helped to restore nitrogen to the soil. This practice, known as nitrogen fixation, is a process where certain bacteria in the roots of legumes convert atmospheric nitrogen into a form that plants can use. The Egyptians didn't have a name for this process, of course, but they understood the effect. They saw that planting lentils made the next year's grain crop healthier and more robust. This intuitive empirical knowledge shows a deep and patient connection to the land, an understanding that came not from books, but from generations of careful observation. And yet, despite all this knowledge and all this hard work, there was always the specter of famine of a year when the Nile's flood was too low or too high. This constant vulnerability to the unpredictable forces of nature is another core part of your life. The bounty of the land is a blessing from the gods, but it is not a guarantee. This raises a quiet philosophical question about the nature of security. We in the modern world have built complex systems to buffer ourselves from the whims of nature, global supply chains, weather forecasting, crop insurance. But for the ancient Egyptian, security was a much more fragile and immediate thing. It was a direct relationship with the land and the river. Did this fragility make them more grateful for what they had? Did it make the taste of a simple piece of bread more profound, more sacred? The truth is, we can't know for sure, but as you feel the texture of the grain in your hand, and as you watch the sun's light fall upon the field, you can sense the deep fundamental connection between your life and the grand quiet and persistent alchemy of the natural world. Your existence is a small but vital part of this great cycle of energy, from the sun's core to the seed in the soil to the food on your plate and back to the earth again. As the sun climbs toward its zenith and the rhythms of the day settle into a familiar pattern, your mind might wander from the fields to the village to the larger social fabric that holds your world together. This society, like a fine piece of linen, is a complex tapestry woven from countless different threads. From the pharaoh at the top, a golden thread that catches the light, to the humble farmer at the bottom, a sturdy earth-toned thread. Each one has a purpose and a place in the larger design. This is a beautiful metaphor for social stratification. Just as a loom organizes different colored threads into a single cohesive pattern, so too did ancient Egyptian society organize its people into distinct classes, each with its own responsibilities and privileges. The social structure was often depicted as a pyramid, with the pharaoh and his family at the very top, followed by the viziers, priests, and scribes, then the soldiers, craftsmen, and merchants, and finally, the vast majority of the population, the farmers and laborers, who formed the broad, strong base. And yet this tapestry was not entirely static. While your position in life was largely determined by your birth, there was a surprising amount of social mobility for a society of this era. A talented and ambitious young man from a humble family could in theory become a scribe, and from there work his way up the bureaucratic ladder. This raises a quiet philosophical question about the nature of destiny and free will. To what extent is our life determined by the circumstances of our birth? And to what extent can we, through our own effort, change our fate? The truth is, we don't really know, but it's a question that echoes through every society, ancient and modern. This social structure was deeply intertwined with their religious beliefs. The pharaoh was not just a king. He was a god, a living link between the divine and the human world. He was the protector of Maat, and his role was to ensure the stability and prosperity of the entire land. His power was absolute, but it was also a heavy responsibility, a constant effort to maintain cosmic balance. The scribes, too, had a sacred role. They were the keepers of knowledge, the writers of sacred texts, and the administrators who kept the complex machinery of the state running smoothly. Their ability to read and write hieroglyphs, a skill that took years to master, gave them a special status, a power that transcended their humble origins. A little-known fact about these scribes is their intense loyalty and commitment to their craft. They saw themselves as the inheritors of a divine tradition, and their work was a form of worship. The craftsmen and artisans, the potters and weavers were the makers of the physical world. Their work, from the simple pottery used for daily meals to the intricate jewelry for the nobility, was a physical manifestation of human skill and creativity. They were the ones who turned the raw materials of the earth, the clay from the river, the gold from the mines into objects of beauty and utility. And at the bottom of it all were the farmers and laborers. Their work was the most fundamental of all. They were the ones who worked the earth, who fed the entire civilization, and without whom the entire tapestry would unravel. This tapestry of society, with its different threads and its different roles, was a source of both order and conflict. There were times when the different classes were in harmony, working together for a common goal, and there were times when the threads became frayed, when a king's power was challenged, or a famine led to social unrest. The history of ancient Egypt, like the history of every civilization, is a story of both incredible stability and dramatic change. But for the most part, life for the average person was about living within this structure. It was about understanding your place, your duties, and your relationship to the people around you. It was a life of quiet interdependence. The potter needed the farmer's grain to survive, and the farmer needed the potter's jars to store his grain. The scribe needed the papyrus from the river, and the papyrus was grown by the farmer. This intricate, interconnected web of existence, with each part relying on the others, is a beautiful example of a complex, self-sustaining system. This brings us to a concept in ecology called a trophic cascade, where a change at one level of an ecosystem can have a ripple effect on all the levels below it. The Egyptian social pyramid, in a way, was a human-made trophic cascade. A bad harvest at the bottom could lead to an empty granary in the middle, and eventually to a loss of power and respect for the king at the top. This deep connection between the individual and the whole is a core part of the ancient Egyptian worldview. Your life was not just your own. It was a part of a larger cosmic dance, and your quiet work, your simple existence, was helping to hold the entire world in balance. As the sun beats down and the work of the day continues, your gaze might be drawn to the distant, awe-inspiring shapes on the horizon, the pyramids. These massive structures are more than just tombs. They are a physical embodiment of the ancient Egyptians' understanding of engineering, mathematics, and the nature of permanence. They are the ultimate expression of human will, imposing order on the physical world. The construction of the pyramids is still a source of quiet wonder. How did a civilization without modern machinery lift and place millions of 2.5-ton stone blocks with such incredible precision? The answer lies not in a secret alien technology, but in a patient, methodical understanding of classical mechanics, the branch of physics that describes the motion of objects. The Egyptians understood the principles of levers, pulleys, and inclined planes. A little-known fact is that they used simple tools like wooden sledges, ropes, and vast quantities of human labor to move these immense stones. They poured water on the sand in front of the sledges to reduce friction, a clever application of physics that we can now explain with modern science. The sheer scale of their work is a testament to the power of organization and simple, elegant physics. The precision of the pyramids is another source of fascination. The Great Pyramid of Giza is oriented to true north with a stunning accuracy that would be difficult to replicate today. The sides are almost perfectly straight, and the angles are nearly perfect right angles. This was not a coincidence. It was a result of a deep understanding of geometry and astronomy. The Egyptians used the stars to determine their cardinal directions, and they used a simple rope and stake method to create perfect right angles, a method that is a precursor to the Pythagorean theorem. This love of geometry, of perfect shapes and harmonious lines, is at the very heart of their architectural genius. This desire for perfect geometry was not just a practical matter. It was also a philosophical one. For the Egyptians, the ideal form of a pyramid, with its stable, unyielding geometry, was a symbol of the cosmic order of Ma'at. It was a perfect, unchanging form in a world of constant flux. The pyramid was a kind of an anchor, a physical point of stability in a universe that was always in motion. It was a man-made mountain, an attempt to build a permanent home for the soul of the pharaoh, a place that would stand for all eternity. This brings us to a beautiful and somewhat humbling thought experiment. The pyramids, for all their solidity, are still subject to the ravages of time. The wind and sand that we spoke of earlier are slowly, patiently eroding their surfaces. They are a monument to the beautiful, tragic truth that nothing in the universe is truly permanent. The ancient Egyptians, in their desire for eternity, created something that will likely outlast our own civilization, but it will not last forever. This raises an interesting philosophical question. Is the search for immortality and permanence a fool's errand? Or is the very act of trying to create something that lasts, even if it is destined to eventually crumble, a noble and essential part of the human spirit? The truth is, we don't really know. But as you look at the silent, geometric shapes on the horizon, you can feel the weight of this question. The pyramids are a testament to our capacity for both incredible achievement and a deep, quiet yearning for something that is bigger and more enduring than ourselves. They are a physical echo of a civilization that believed it could defy the very laws of entropy, a civilization that for a time succeeded in building a world of breathtaking order and beauty out of a chaotic, shifting landscape. And in that, there is a kind of gentle, beautiful magic. As you move through the village, you might notice the work of the artists and craftsmen. The statues carved from granite and limestone, the intricate paintings on tomb walls, the delicate jewelry of gold and lapis lazuli. These are not just beautiful objects. They are a physical expression of a civilization's deepest beliefs about beauty, memory, and the human desire for permanence. The art of ancient Egypt is a testament to the power of the human hand to capture and preserve a fleeting moment in time. The painters and sculptors worked with a stylized, almost geometric precision. The figures are often shown in a composite perspective with the head in profile, the torso facing forward, and the legs in profile. This wasn't a lack of skill. It was a deliberate choice, a way of representing the most complete and essential version of a person. The goal was not realism, but an ideal, eternal representation. The statues of the pharaohs, with their calm, unyielding faces and their straight, upright postures, were meant to project a sense of stability, of power, of a person who had transcended the chaos of the earthly world. This raises a fascinating question about the nature of memory. We know from modern neuroscience that memory is not a perfect objective record of the past. It is a constantly changing creative process, a kind of mental theater where we restage and reinterpret our past experiences. The ancient Egyptians in their art were doing something similar. They were not just documenting life as it was. They were idealizing it, creating a perfect eternal memory of a person or a moment that would live on in the afterlife. The tomb paintings with their scenes of banquets, hunts, and agricultural life were not just decorations. They were a kind of magical record, a way of bringing a perfect version of a person's life into the next world, a kind of persistence of memory that went far beyond the biological. A little-known fact about ancient Egyptian art is that the artists themselves were often anonymous. The credit for a great work of art went not to the individual who created it, but to the patron, usually the pharaoh or a high-ranking noble. The artist was a servant of the divine, a kind of channel through which the cosmic order could be made manifest in stone and paint. This is a profound departure from the modern concept of the artist as an individual genius. For the ancient Egyptian artist, the purpose of their work was not self-expression, but the preservation of Mayat, the creation of beauty that would help the soul on its journey to the afterlife. The art also served a vital religious function. The tomb paintings were meant to provide the Ka, the spiritual double, with everything it would need in the afterlife. The images of food servants and worldly goods were not just pictures. They were magical representations that could be brought to life through ritual. The statue of the deceased, placed in a special chamber, was a home for the Kaya, place where it could return to receive offerings. This belief in the power of art to transcend the boundary between the physical and the spiritual, is a beautiful, if somewhat naive testament to the human desire for a legacy that outlives the body. This brings us to a deep philosophical question that still haunts us today. What is a life? Is it just the years we spend on Earth? Or does it also include the stories and memories we leave behind? The ancient Egyptians believed that a person's name and image were a part of their soul, and that to erase them was to condemn them to eternal oblivion. This is why pharaohs like Akhenaten and Hatshepsut were subject to damnatio memoriae, the deliberate destruction of their images and names. It was a way of erasing them from history, of killing them a second time. The truth is, we don't have a definitive answer to the question of legacy, but the art of ancient Egypt offers a powerful one. It suggests that a person lives on not just in the memories of those who knew them, but in the objects they left behind, the stories told about them, and the images that are meant to last for all time. And as you look at these serene, unchanging faces carved in stone, you can feel the quiet, unyielding power of a civilization that believed with every fiber of its being in the persistence of memory. As you continue your journey, you might feel a sudden change in the atmosphere. The air, which once felt so focused on the physical, now feels charged with a different kind of energy, the resonance of faith. The world of ancient Egypt was a world saturated with the divine. The sun was a god, the river, a god, the sky, a goddess. Every aspect of life, from birth to death, was interwoven with the presence of a vast and complex pantheon. To understand this society, you must understand its polytheistic belief system, not just as a set of rules, but as a deep psychological need for meaning. This brings us to a core psychological theory known as terror management theory. It suggests that a major driver of human behavior is the fear of our own mortality. To cope with this existential dread, we create cultural worldviews that give life meaning, value, and a sense of permanence. The ancient Egyptian religion, with its meticulous focus on the afterlife and its promise of eternal life, is a perfect example of this. The rituals, the prayers, the temple offerings, all were designed to manage the profound anxiety that comes with knowing that life is finite. A little-known fact is that this wasn't just a top-down royal religion. Common people, too, had their own personal gods, their own small shrines in their homes, and their own daily rituals to feel connected to the divine. This raises a fascinating question about the nature of belief. Why do humans across cultures and time seem to have such a powerful need for a spiritual or a religious framework? Is it an evolutionary adaptation, a way of creating social cohesion and a sense of purpose? Or is it something more, a deep, quiet yearning for a connection to something larger than ourselves? The truth is, we don't really know for sure, and this is one of the great enduring mysteries of human existence. The truth is, we don't know for sure, and this is one of the great enduring mysteries of human existence. Your inner world, if you lived here, would be profoundly shaped by these beliefs. You wouldn't just see the sun rise, you would see the daily rebirth of the god Ra. You wouldn't just see the stars at night, you would see the great celestial boat carrying the souls of the dead. Your thoughts, your dreams, your hopes, and your fears would all be filtered through a religious lens. The world would feel full of meaning and purpose, a place where even the smallest actions had a cosmic significance. The practice of offering to the gods a central part of their religious life is another example of this. The offerings, food, incense, wine, were not just gifts. They were a way of establishing a reciprocal relationship with the divine. You give to the gods, and in return, they give you a bountiful harvest, a healthy family, and a safe passage to the afterlife. This sense of exchange, this feeling of a personal contract with the divine, would have been a central part of your daily life. It would have made the universe feel less random and more personal, less indifferent and more responsive. This feeling of purpose, of being a part of a grand divine plan, would have shaped your inner world in a way that is difficult for us to imagine. It would have provided a powerful sense of comfort and security in a world that was often harsh and unpredictable. This is a powerful psychological tool. It helps us to endure suffering, to find meaning in hardship, and to feel a sense of belonging in a world that can often feel lonely and confusing. So as you feel the quiet hum of this spiritual energy in the air, you can understand that for the ancient Egyptian faith was not an abstract concept. It was a felt, lived, and deeply personal reality. It was a language, a compass, and a source of profound comfort. The universe of the ancient Egyptian was a world of circles and cycles, not straight lines. While we in our modern world think of time as a linear, unending progression, they saw it as a rhythmic, recurring event. And the heart of this rhythmic, cyclical view of time was the Nile. The river's annual flood, the Akhet, was the single most important event of the year. Its predictable rise and fall was the pulse of their civilization, a living clock that governed everything from agriculture to religion. This direct physical connection between a natural phenomenon and a man-made calendar is a beautiful thing to contemplate. The Egyptian calendar was based on 3 seasons, each 4 months long. The first was Akhet, the inundation, when the Nile's floodwaters covered the land. The second was Pere, the growing season, when the fields were fertile and the crops grew. And the third was Shemu, the harvest, when the crops were gathered and the land rested. This calendar was not an abstract invention. It was a direct reflection of the physical world around them. This brings us to an interesting and little-known scientific fact about the Nile's flooding. The flood was not caused by local rainfall in Egypt. It was caused by the heavy summer rains in the highlands of Ethiopia, 1,000 miles away. The water would travel down the Blue Nile and the White Nile, carrying with it a rich, dark silt that was a perfect natural fertilizer. The Egyptians didn't understand this global hydrological system, but they understood its effect. They saw the water arrive, and they knew it was a gift from the gods, a sign that the cosmic order was being maintained. This physical event, so distant from their daily lives, was the very thing that made their existence possible. The creation of a calendar based on this cycle was a remarkable intellectual achievement. The Egyptians were among the first to develop a solar calendar of 365 days, a system that was far more accurate than the lunar calendars used by other cultures. They did this by observing the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, which, as we discussed, coincided with the start of the Nile's flood. By linking a celestial event to a terrestrial one, they created a calendar that was both practical and deeply symbolic. It was a testament to their belief that the movements of the stars were directly connected to the rhythms of life on Earth. This raises a quiet philosophical question about our own relationship with time. In our modern linear clock-based reality, have we lost a sense of time as a cyclical natural phenomenon? We measure our lives in years and birthdays and anniversaries, all markers on a straight line. But what if we, for a moment, thought of time as a wheel, as a series of seasons that repeat and return? This is not to say that the past is coming back, but it is to say that there is a quiet, comforting rhythm to life, a cycle of growth and decay, of birth and death. That is a universal truth. The Nile's pulse, its annual rise and fall, was a constant physical reminder of this truth. For the ancient Egyptian, the past was not a distant country. The past was a cyclical event that was always, in a sense, on the verge of returning. The rituals of the temple, the retelling of the myths, the annual celebrations, all were ways of bringing the past into the present, of ensuring that the cosmic order was maintained. This belief gave them a profound sense of stability and security. They knew that as long as the Nile flowed and as long as the sun rose, life would continue. And in this knowledge, there was a quiet, deep peace. As you find yourself in the heart of the village, you might witness a scene that is both deeply familiar and profoundly foreign, a healer at work. The world of ancient Egyptian medicine was a fascinating mix of empirical observation and spiritual belief. They didn't see the body as a machine. They saw it as a vessel that was susceptible to both physical ailments and spiritual disturbances. The healer's job was to treat both. Their medical knowledge, as we've touched on, was surprisingly advanced. They had a deep understanding of human anatomy. though much of it came from the mummification process, not from direct surgical exploration. They knew how to set broken bones, how to treat wounds, and how to use various herbs and minerals to create remedies. This is the field of pharmacology, the study of how substances interact with living organisms to produce a change in function. The ancient Egyptians, in their own way, were early pharmacologists. They used natural remedies like honey for its antiseptic properties, willow for pain relief, and various herbs for digestive issues. A little-known fact is that they also used moldy bread to treat infections, a practice that, unbeknownst to them, was harnessing the power of penicillin. This intuitive trial-and-error approach to medicine is a beautiful testament to the human capacity for learning and adaptation. But their medicine was not just about the body. It was also about the soul. The healer would use incantations and rituals to drive out the evil spirits that they believed were the cause of many illnesses. They saw the body as a battlefield, a place where the forces of good and evil, of health and disease, were in constant struggle. Their approach was holistic, treating the person as a whole, not just as a collection of symptoms. This is a concept that has made a comeback in modern medicine, where we are beginning to recognize the profound connection between our mental and physical health. This raises a quiet philosophical question about the nature of disease. Is it just a biological phenomenon, a breakdown of a physical system? Or is it something more, a symptom of a deeper spiritual imbalance? The truth is, we don't know for sure, and this is a question that both scientists and spiritualists have grappled with for centuries. The ancient Egyptians, with their dual approach, were offering a powerful answer: it is both. This approach gave them a profound sense of agency. They believed that they were not just victims of disease. They were partners with the gods in the fight against it. The healer's work was a sacred duty, a way of maintaining the cosmic order and keeping the body and the civilization healthy. The knowledge of herbs and remedies was passed down from generation to generation, a sacred trust, and the rituals and incantations were a way of connecting with the divine, of asking for help in a world that was often harsh and unforgiving. For the person who was ill, this approach would have been a source of both comfort and fear. They would have had faith in the healer's skills, but they would have also been aware of the spiritual forces that were at work. The illness would have been a personal battle, but it would have also been a cosmic one. This deep sense of a personal connection to a grand divine drama would have been a central part of their experience. And as you watch the healer at work, you can feel the quiet, powerful, and deeply human need to find meaning and purpose in a world of pain and suffering. As the day begins, its slow, deliberate descent toward evening, your thoughts might turn to the one great certainty of life, its end. The ancient Egyptians had a profound and all-encompassing obsession with death, not as a finality, but as a transition. Their entire civilization, from the pyramids on the horizon to the simple rituals in a humble home, was a testament to their belief in the power of the afterlife. The pinnacle of this belief was the practice of mummification, a ritual that still captures our imagination today. From a modern biological perspective, mummification is a sophisticated form of preservation, a way of arresting the natural process of decomposition. Decomposition, the breakdown of organic matter, is a process driven by bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms. The Egyptians, in their own way, understood this intuitively. By removing the internal organs and drying the body with a salt called natron, they created an environment that was inhospitable to these microorganisms. They sealed the body in linen wrappings and placed it in a tomb, designed to be a permanent sterile home. This process, while seemingly gruesome to us, was an act of profound love and respect, a way of giving the body a chance to live on in the next world. The elaborate rituals and the objects placed in the tombs were not just for show. They were a kind of survival kit for the afterlife. The tomb was a house, and the paintings on the walls were a magical supply of everything the deceased would need: food, drink, servants, and tools. This belief in the afterlife was a powerful motivator. It gave the ancient Egyptians a sense of purpose and meaning, a feeling that their lives on Earth were just a preparation for a greater journey. A little-known fact about these rituals is that they weren't just for the pharaohs. Common people too were mummified, though, with less elaborate materials and rituals. This was a democratization of the afterlife, a belief that everyone, regardless of their social status, had a soul that deserved a chance at eternal life. This focus on the afterlife raises a profound philosophical question. Does a belief in immortality change the way we live our lives? Does it make us more willing to endure suffering? To make sacrifices, to live a life of virtue? We, in our modern secular world, often live with a deep sense of a final, irreversible ending. For the ancient Egyptian, death was not an end. It was a journey. This worldview gave them a quiet, serene sense of continuity, a feeling that their life and their history was a part of a grand, eternal story. The truth is, we don't know for sure how much this belief shaped their daily behavior. But it's a quiet mystery that feels worth contemplating as you watch the sun's last light fall upon the silent tombs. This brings us to a final humbling thought about mortality. We, like the ancient Egyptians, are all on a one-way street. We are all in our own way subject to the ravages of time and the inevitable decay of our bodies. But we, like them also, have a deep, quiet yearning for a legacy that outlives us. We want to be remembered. We want our lives to have meaning. The silent, solemn tombs of ancient Egypt are a beautiful, tragic testament to this universal human desire. They are a physical reminder that while our bodies may crumble, our stories, our beliefs, and our memories can, if we are lucky, live on. As the sun disappears below the horizon and the world is enveloped in the cool, deep blue of twilight, your gaze is drawn upward toward the vast, silent canvas of the cosmos. The stars that are now beginning to emerge one by one were a constant source of wonder and mystery for the ancient Egyptians. For them, the night sky was not just a collection of distant suns. It was a map of the afterlife, a highway for the soul on its final journey. This is the very essence of archaeoastronomy, the study of how ancient cultures viewed and used the stars. While we know the Egyptians observed the heavens for practical purposes, like timekeeping, their most profound connection to the cosmos was a spiritual one. They believed the soul of the pharaoh, and later of all good people, would ascend to the heavens to become a star. The North Star, which they called the imperishable star, was a symbol of eternal life and was a constant, unmoving point of reference in a sky full of motion. This is a powerful little-known fact. In a world of constant change and flux, they found a symbol of permanence in the heavens. The Egyptians saw the constellations as divine beings, as characters in a grand cosmic narrative. The constellation Orion, which they called Sa, was seen as a manifestation of the god Osiris, the lord of the afterlife. The star Sirius, which followed Orion on its journey across the sky, was the goddess Isis. This belief provided them with a powerful and comforting narrative about the journey of the soul. The deceased would become a star, a part of the vast eternal cosmos, and would continue their journey in the company of the gods. This raises a quiet philosophical question that still haunts us today. Are we truly alone in the universe? The ancient Egyptians had no doubt about the answer. The cosmos was filled with life, with gods and spirits, and the stars were a constant visible reminder of their presence. We, in our modern world, have sent probes to distant planets and listened for radio signals from other civilizations, and yet the vastness and silence of space still feel like a profound mystery. The truth is, we don't really know if there is other life out there, and in that, we are perhaps more like the ancient Egyptians than we realize. We look up at the same stars and ask the same profound questions about our place in the universe. The ancient Egyptians saw the universe as a beautiful, ordered place, a reflection of Ma'at, the principle of cosmic balance. They believed that the sun god Ra made a daily journey across the sky in his solar barge, and at night, he would travel through the underworld, battling the forces of chaos to be reborn again at dawn. This belief in a constantly renewing cosmos gave them a profound sense of hope. They knew that no matter how dark the night, the sun would always rise again, And as you stand here in the quiet of the Egyptian night, with the stars scattered across the sky like a handful of diamonds, you can feel the quiet echo of these ancient beliefs. You can feel the vastness of space and time, and at the same time you can feel a deep, comforting sense of connection. The stars that the ancient Egyptians looked at are the same stars you are looking at now. Their questions about life and death, about purpose and meaning, are the same questions we are asking now. And in this shared human experience, there is a kind of quiet cosmic communion. The ancient world and the modern world are not so different after all. The journey is drawing to a close now. We have traveled backward in time, not to a place of chaos and myth, but to a place of deep, beautiful order. We've walked on the soft golden sands of a land shaped by the patient, unyielding forces of geology. We've watched the sun rise and set, feeling the rhythm of a day governed not by clocks, but by the natural ancient cadence of the Earth's rotation. We've seen the world as a complex tapestry of meaning, woven with the threads of language, science, and faith. We've contemplated the nature of the self, not as a single unified entity, but as a collection of different parts. The life force, the spirit, the memory. We've felt the quiet, steady hum of entropy at work in the shifting sands. And we've seen the human will to defy it in the geometric perfection of the pyramids. We've tasted the sweet, simple truth of photosynthesis in a single grain of wheat. And we've felt the pulse of the Nile as the very heartbeat of a civilization. We've sat with the quiet, confident knowledge of the healer who saw the body as a vessel for both physical and spiritual forces. We've meditated on the persistence of memory and on the human desire to leave a legacy that outlives the body. We've felt the comfort of a world saturated with the divine, a world where the stars were not just distant suns, but a map of the soul's final journey. We've asked the same profound questions that the ancient Egyptians asked questions about life, death, and our place in the vast, silent cosmos. And in this final moment, as the last traces of ancient Egypt begin to fade like a whisper on the wind, we are left with a single, beautiful truth. The world is a place of deep, interconnected mysteries. The geology that shaped a river, the biology that allows a plant to grow, the physics that allows a pyramid to stand. These are not separate things. They are all parts of a single majestic story. The ancient Egyptians, in their own way, understood this intuitively. They saw the cosmos not as a collection of separate pieces, but as a living, breathing whole. And in this understanding, they found a sense of purpose and meaning that we, in our modern fragmented world, are still searching for. The story is over, but the quiet questions remain. The questions about time, about consciousness, about the meaning of it all. And in the silence, there is a kind of gentle, comforting space for contemplation. The sands of time continue to shift, the river continues to flow, and these stars continue to march across the sky. And we, in our quiet, temporary existence, are a part of it all. Now, I'd like you to gently bring your awareness back to the moment you are in, to the place you are staying now, the room around you, the gentle brush of the air on your skin, the soft glow of the screen, the sounds outside your window slowly fading as the night deepens. We have traveled so far to a time and a place that feels as distant as a dream. But the truth is, it was all within you. It was all a quiet, slow journey through the landscapes of the human mind. The curiosity, the wonder, the search for meaning. These are the timeless things that connect us from the ancient banks of the Nile to wherever and whenever you are now. I'd like to gently ask one last time, where is the place you're staying now? The time in that place at this very moment, how is it flowing? Just feel the answer quietly within you. Let the knowledge that you are a part of this great, shared, and ongoing human story bring you a feeling of deep peace. There is no need for rush, no need for hurry, just the quiet, gentle presence of this moment. Let the final echoes of our story wash over you like the soft waves of a river. Let the sound of my voice be a final whisper, an offering to the peace you are cultivating. Sleep well, my companion, wherever and whenever you are. Sweet dreams.